Hello, in this video I'm going to go over uh, things that you can work on before Update 49 launches. I believe the launch date is March 9th if I'm not mistaken. So we've got a little over a month before that hits. Um, so I'm going to go over some things that you can work on before the update hits on March 9th. Everybody is going to be getting this update at the same time, so it's no longer going to be PC gets it and then a couple weeks later console gets it. But some of the updates that they are going to go ahead and implement in the upcoming update, there are some things that you can work on ahead of time so that when the update happens, you can kind of take advantage of certain things. And so let's get into it. So first off, one of the main things that they are working on right now is the overhaul on the Dragon Knight skill lines. So if you have not upgraded your Dragon Knight subclasses, that might be something you want to focus on now. Slap one of these on and level it up. If you've already leveled it up, maybe check both morphs of the skills. That way, um, when it updates and everything, you should be good to go. I don't know, they may or may not have to level up some of the skills that they're changing. I'm not sure on that, but just keep that in mind that they may make it to where you have to re-level it up. I think that would be a bad idea, but they are changing what some of the skills do visually as well as damage wise, and so keep that in mind. If that's something you're going to be interested in trying out right away, might be a good idea to level this up so that you can effectively use it um, if you haven't leveled it up already. Um, if they reset the levels, then I guess there's nothing you can do ahead of time, but just in case they don't reset them, casually put them on throughout the next month or so and level those up to where you can have full capabilities on that. So that's just a brief touch on that. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the Endeavor system. They are getting rid of the Endeavors altogether, and they are going to be transitioning those into, I believe, what it's called Tamriel Tomes. And so I don't know what the conversion rate is going to look like. I'm not quite sure what specifically the store it is going to have is going to be having in stock. So you may or may not want to try and maybe decide on buying. Maybe you've got enough to buy one of these Apex mounts right now. You might want to look into getting one of those. You might spend all your endeavors before the conversion. If there's something here that you like, who knows? I'm just giving you some food for thought on this. I'm not saying definitely pull the trigger on it, but um, I don't know specifically what the conversion rate is going to be. Like, for example, if you've got 50,000 endeavors, um, what that's going to convert to and what the things are going to cost in the new store, I'm not really sure. Um, but that's just something to consider and be aware of, that they are getting rid of the endeavors. So that's something to think about. They're going to be getting rid of the daily logins as well as the daily endeavors, and that's kind of taking away the everyday need for having to log in and doing this kind of thing here, so that you don't necessarily have to log in every single day and miss out on something if you're not able to do that. So they're taking that away and putting it into a different system to where you can kind of work on it when you can. But again, who knows what that conversion rate is going to look like. So just keep that in mind, food for thought. The next thing that I'm going to touch on is inventory wise. Transmute crystals. Currently, they're limited at 1,000, and they are going to increase the limit to 3,000 if you have ESO plus. So if you want to ahead of time, you could start going through all your characters and working on doing some undaunted dailies, doing some PvP campaign reward stuff. Again, it's a great time to do it with the White Strikes event. You'll be able to get to level 1 tier reward on all your characters much quicker than normal because of the increased AP. You have double AP during the White Streaks and Mayhem. Just make sure that you are in the correct campaign that you earn for the monthly rewards tier. And then also other transmute farms that you can do. I believe Tales of Tribute will give you some transmute crystals. Don't quote me on that because I am not a Tales of Tribute person. If you do a trial once a week, you will also get some transmute crystals for that as well. I have a transmute crystal farming video. I'll go ahead and link that in the description. So if you're wanting to figure out how to farm transmute crystals, I've got a video on how to do that effectively. So the fourth thing that I'm going to talk about here is getting your characters prepared to run the new event zone called the Night Market. From what I have seen online and heard about, I've not tested this in person, but it's supposed to be more difficult, and you're supposed to have to group with people in order to get it done because it is a more difficult zone than normal. So I'm assuming that you're going to need something equating a tanky solo build or something like that, or if you're actually going to group with people, probably something close to a trials build if you're going to have tanks and healers in your group and whatnot. It just depends on how many people you're going to group up with. Hopefully they can make somewhat of an instance-based kind of thing so that maybe you can queue for it in an organized manner rather than just kind of like the Fortress event that's currently on again in Solstice. That was kind of a runaway session there with the fortress that is in Solstice that separates the two zones, where everybody and their grandmother can go in there at once and just attack everything. I think it would be better to have kind of an organized queuing kind of thing, but we'll see how that goes. But I would recommend if you're going to try to go in there on your own, you're probably going to need something equating like a build that is good for veteran Vatishran hollows or something like that. Something that's tanky, that has good resource regeneration and sustain, but that can also do a decent amount of damage. Your penetration's probably going to need to be somewhere in the 9,000 neighborhood, maybe a little bit higher if you include major and minor breach into that calculation, whatnot. But just keep in mind that's probably what you're going to need for the night market area is a tanky, good damage solo build that has good resource sustain. I'm not sure if companions will be able to go in there or not, but you may want to make sure that you've got at least one good companion to haul in there that's not going to die every 2 seconds. So I'll link a couple of my companion videos as well in case you're interested on how to work up those. So the fifth thing, the Imperial City. If you carry more than 100 Telvar on your character, then you will no longer be able to port out of Imperial City into Cyrodiil. I know that is a trick that I used several times. So just keep that in mind. That is no longer going to be capable once Update 49 launches. If you have more than 100 Telvar, you will not be able to port out. So if you're deep in the sewers, maybe you're doing a Molag Ball run and you happen to get up to like maybe 5,000, 9,000 Telvar, and you're thinking, oh, geez, I'd like to just zip out to Cyrodiil and save this. You will not be able to do that anymore unless you have a recall stone, which is I've got some of these in my bank here. The Sigil of Imperial Retreat. This is something you might want to try and start farming so that you can use these when you're out and about in Imperial City. This will enable you to port back to the Alliance base and save your Telvar. However, if you don't have very many of these, then you could possibly run out. So you need to do some missions to get these up and make sure that you can port back to your Alliance base and save your Telvar without losing out a whole bunch. So just keep that in mind. Once update 49 hits, you will no longer be able to port back to base or port back to Cyrodiil in order to save your Telvar. You're going to have to either run all the way back through the sewers or you're going to have to use one of these. So keep that in mind. Then the last thing I'm going to talk about is the new Mythic that they are coming out with. And it is a ring Mythic. And I will pull this up here. Give me 1 second. And I will read the description to you of what it actually does. Or I should say what it does right now anyway. It is called the Shattered Paths Signet. Now this description and ability could change from now until when it actually launches. That definitely has the possibility of doing that. However, here's the description. When you're wearing this Mythic, it increases your damage done with status effects by 1% for every one ultimate that you have, up to a total of 170%. Both the current and maximum damage done is halved against players, so you'll only be able to get 85% increased damage on players for status effects. But in PvE, monsters will take 170% capped damage from status effects. Also, while you have 170 or more ultimate, your light attacks and your heavy attacks will apply a random status effect up to once every 4 seconds. And it applies minor timidity to you, or timidity to you, which consumes an ultimate every 1.5 seconds. So in order to keep the damage for this up, you really have to make sure that you're light attacking quite often so that you keep that light attack bonus up. You probably want to implement minor courage in your build also. Maybe even run a trample with major courage, or excuse me, not courage, but heroism, minor heroism and major heroism. So those would be things that you want to implement there with that Mythic. So why am I talking about this? Well, that's a considerable amount of damage. I've seen parses on YouTube now that are hitting up in 180 range with this Mythic on. So why is that important to talk about now? Well, there's a couple of things if you want to buff status effects that you can implement ahead of time that will help you once this Mythic is available. And one of those is scripts for scribing. Say that tongue twister 3 times fast. There are scripts in scribing that will increase status effect chance. For example, this one here. Again, I've done a status effect video, so I will tag that as well in case you're wondering how status effects work, what they do, how to apply them. All of that is covered in the video that I did. But back to this, in addition to these scribing scripts, another thing that you possibly could work on ahead of time, and this could become a lot more optimal once this Mythic comes into play, and this is Elemental Weapon, because this will apply Burning, Chilled, and Concussed so that it's not as necessary to have your ultimate up to get that status effect application, this will guarantee one of 3 of those. You can get burning or chilled or concussed with this, and it's also a fairly cheap spammable to use. So keep that in mind. Sigic Order is one of the more pain in the butt skill lines to level and get completed. So with the month or so ahead of time here, gives you plenty of time to kind of casually work on it. Again, I'm never one to talk about this kind of stuff, and I'm not intending this to be a grind or anything like that where you spend 12 straight hours doing any of this. This is why I talk about it a good month in advance so that you can just kind of sprinkle it in when you want to. And again, if you don't want to do any of this, it's absolutely not necessary to do ahead of time. Just food for thought kind of thing. Some status effects sets that would be good for those builds, or with that mythic, I should say. Probably like if you're looking at doing a frost build, I just worked on that earlier this morning. Tideborn paired with the set from Overland, Blackwood, Frostbite. Those 2 things buffing the chilled status effect. And then if you were to proc chilled on a Winter's Revenge, or excuse me, Winter's Embrace Warden, for example, wearing that mythic is going to be a pretty strong build to work on. Wardens are probably going to be pretty deadly with that based on the fact that they have some other status effects, some bleeds and things like that from their regular animal companions skill line, along with the chilled increase here from Winter's Embrace. And obvious no-brainer pairing would be with the Herald of the Tome subclass to go with that as well for the Psychic Legion passive. So keep in mind, those are some things that you can mix in. Dragon Knight Ardent Flame has the combustion passive, which increases your burning and poison damage. So, but they are overhauling this right now, so we'll see what this ends up being when it launches. But just to give you some ideas on status effect builds to try out the new Mythic, again, which is called the Shattered Paths Signet. Not quite sure. It looks like the leads are all coming from the night market as of right now, from what I can see online from the listing. So that's another reason why you're going to want to try and prepare for the night market, is in order to get that new mythic there. Might be a hot pocket or a hot spot place for getting the new items and things like that, is to go into that zone and really work it through. So make sure you've got a really good build for that and prepped, ready to go for that area. So I'm going to end the video on that right there. Thank you again for watching. If you liked my video here, check out my YouTube channel. I have organized playlists on all of the videos that I've done. I have over 200 videos on this video game now. So if you go to my YouTube channel, go down to my organized playlists, my created playlists rather, those are all my videos that I have made, and I've organized and separated them out to subject matter. I've got tank videos, healer videos, DPS videos, overall guides, all kinds of things. Check out my folders down there, playlists, and see if there's anything else there that you like. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.